I'm Becky. I'm an alcoholic. I've been through these steps with the Big Beck Step Study sponsor, willing, kind God. I've got one amend left to make, and I'm practicing these principles to the best of my ability on a daily basis. I am truly an alcoholic, of that there is no doubt. When I first came into these halls of Big Book Step Study, I was broken. I had just come off of yet another relapse, and my sponsor had said to me, "You're a really tough case, you need to go to Big Book Step Study." And I thought, I'm not going there. I went there once before, but I came under the influence, so I thought everybody was crazy. And I thought to myself, I'm not going there, all those people are crazy. And I said to her, all right, where's this meeting? And that was my attitude when I walked in. And I sat about midway, and the first speaker, I'm on step one, and it was Fern. And I only say her name because the color of her hair to me was so startlingly beautiful. All I could see was the back of her head. But she started to talk about step one, and I was transfixed. I couldn't believe the happiness in her voice. And I looked around, and people were laughing, and they were smiling, and I thought, wow, there's a chance for me. Maybe I don't have to live this life of misery that I've lived for the past 40 years. I didn't get this until I was 50, and I wouldn't wish that on anyone. My journey was a long one. I started when I was 12 years old, and I went through 40 years of addiction. Whatever the popular drug of choice was, that's what I gravitated to. Alcohol was always a part. I always drank into a blackout. There was so many blackouts. Unbelievable. I remember one night it was New Year's Eve, and I was trying to decide what I was going to drink. A big decision. And I decided that I would drink Jack Daniels and Coke. Okay. So the next morning I woke up, and the bathroom door was off the hinges. It was leaning up against the wall, and I said to my husband, what happened to the door? He goes, what happened to the door? You locked yourself in the bathroom, and you passed out. You had the cat in there, and I couldn't get you. And I had to take the door off the hinges to get you out of there. And I had no recollection whatsoever of any of it. And I think everybody in this room's experienced a blackout, so we all have our stories. I have numerous stories like that, as I'm sure we all do. And, I have numerous stories of my life as an alcoholic, and, I was always the last one. I was really proud of that I'd always be the last one up, the last one standing, the last one smoking, the last one drinking, the last one snorting, the last one. And I thought that was something to be really proud of. And I'm not so proud of that now. And, the big book says we will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. And that's the way I live my life. I have fleeting moments of remembering things. And luckily, because of this process, I am able to deal with those thoughts. I had a thought the other day. I was cleaning up after a meeting. I was helping the gentleman clean up, and I was wiping off the counters, and all of a sudden the thought of a pain pill came across my mind. And I thought, wow, wouldn't it be great to have that feeling of warmth and ease and comfort? And then I thought to myself, what, are you out of your mind? Do you realize where that would lead to? And that's all because of this process. I wouldn't know what to do with that thought. I may have put that into action before. And those thoughts were always what led up to my relapses, or what once I'd swear I'd never again. And then, I have this disease that tells me I don't have a disease. And, what's it going to hurt? No one will know. And that's towards the last few years of my using, I gravitated towards the prescription medications because, first of all, they were free. Secondly, no one could smell them or, I thought, detect them. And I said this to my sister-in-law the other day, and she goes, in the meantime, your eyes are rolling up in the back of your head. But I was undetectable. No one knew. And in the writing of my own prescriptions, the legal problems, going to court, looking at multiple felonies, none of that even stopped me. I think if I hadn't walked into that meeting on that day on step 1, I don't know where I would be today, but that was God in my life. And a wonderful sponsor that I still have today and that I love more than words can say. And I'll always say to her, you saved my life, and she'll always say that was God. But she definitely played a role in it. And we'd meet once a week. When we did step 3, I remember she lit a candle, and I really appreciated that. I thought that was really, made the moment special when we got down on our knees and we said the 3rd step prayer. And there was no great lightning bolts, nothing like that happened, but I did feel kind of a comfort, and I thought, wow, here I made a decision, an action step, made a decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God. And this is coming from a person who I was an atheist. And if anyone can come to know God, anyone can after my story, because I remember going into detox the first time, and the girl that checked me in saying to me, God will take care of you. And I looked right at her and I said, there is no God. And I truly believed there was no God. My father told me he was God, and I believed him. He even had his robes engraved with the word God on them. And his wife would have hers engraved, God's boss. And that was like the big thing in my father's house. And, I believed that he was my God. And that's why his death was particularly hard on me. But now I realize, that was just part of my disease, part of the sickness, self-seeking behavior. And that my God is kind, my God is wise. And a lot of times I can hear the voice of God. Like, for instance, the other day when I was cleaning up and I had that thought, do you think that wasn't God intervening? I don't know what was. And putting these steps into my life has been a big part of my change. Having written my step 4, and I know this is on step 3, but it's a very important part of my story. And, at some of these we balked. We thought we could find an easier, softer way, but we could not. I was always looking for the easier, softer way. And it took 40 years of my life to realize there is no easier, softer way. For me, it's only the steps. For me, it's only Alcoholics Anonymous. And I have to live this program every day of my life. Now, sometimes I say to myself, why did I get this disease? I don't know why. My mother had it, my father had it. It was prevalent in my family. Maybe that made my chances more than average. I'm sure that had something to do with it, because that's what I learned. All I learned was the best way you dealt with problems was to drink or drug them away. And I think we live what we learn sometimes. I didn't have an alternative. I didn't have a normal childhood. I didn't spend my life going to soccer or softball or sleepovers or any of the normal things that I see other people's children do, that I saw my granddaughters do. I only drank and used drugs. And my mother would say to me, why don't you drink at home? And here I was 13 years old, inviting my girlfriend over to share a bottle of Boone's Farm Apple Hill. And I should have been going to soccer practice, or maybe being, doing something at school, or maybe even studying or planning for my future. There was no planning for my future, because my future was in the now. My future was in the bottle or in the substance. That's where my future was. And I thought I had all the answers, but I didn't have all the answers. God has all the answers. So, that we were alcoholic and could not manage our own lives, that probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism, and that God could and would if he were sought. When I sought out God, he answered. Some people say she. I don't mean to offend anyone, he or she. I just call him he. I don't think that it matters. But God came when he was sought for me, and I spend a lot of time with God, especially in the mornings. And sometimes I'll just say, come on, God, what's going on here? Can you help me? But I'm always careful never to ask for anything for myself. I ask for spiritual guidance. I ask for help for another human being. I have a friend who's like the jaywalker. She's broken her foot, her ankle, her ribs, her wrist, her hand, and just now broke her hip. She's in the hospital. She just had surgery yesterday. And what comes to mind is the jaywalker. The last time she fell, I really lit into her and explained to her that she had two options. She could either fall and hit her head and die, or she could fall and end up breaking her hip and end up in a nursing home. And here it was, my words came to pass, but they weren't my words, they were God's words. And but she threw away the pain meds. She's taken 180 pain meds a month. But she kept the benzodiazepines, and she kept the sleeping meds, and she went out to her mailbox to check her mail and fell and broke her hip. And I'm going to go up to the hospital to visit her later on today. But my heart is broken because there is a solution, and she can't get it. No, I said to her, you need to go to AA. And she said, oh, I'm not like you. Well, yeah, you are, So we're all alike, all of us in this room. And I find comfort in that. I find comfort in the halls of AA. I find comfort in my friends. And knowing that I'm an alcoholic, and knowing there is a solution, and knowing that I have an allergy, phenomenon of craving, all these things, when the knowledge of this book came to me, I found as a comfort. And it was amazing to me that this blue book that I had on my nightstand, on my dresser, wherever I moved it from place to place and dusted it off, actually had the 12 steps in it. Wow. And, meeting with my sponsor and having this book open up to me was like an experience. I call it second to none. I know we use that phrase a lot in this program, but this process saved my life. And I get really excited when I see somebody get it. And I get doubly excited when I see somebody young get it, because I think they don't have to go through all the misery that I went through. But it's all God's plan. And I think that's all I have for today. Thank you.